It interests me that when you go to your page, you proudly proclaim you're a hacker.
To me, hacking is more of a mindset. My job was stealing intelligence. Part of staying ahead is understanding when you're actually on your way to becoming behind. Very first job, starting out at dishwashing, now to again, managing and running a multi-billion-dollar company. It's actually way less important about what I do, and it's more important like what I defer and delegate and delete.
I'm Anthony Mongeluzo, and on this episode, Built to Scale, we have an amazing CEO and one that makes me look like I'm a part-timer, Kyle Hanslovan over at Huntress. And what I do want to say before he says hello, one of probably our favorite partner, Huntress has done so much in terms of securing our clients, letting our clients sleep at night, letting us sleep at night. Their team is just absolutely incredible. So it's an honor that you've taken some time because, look, we know your company's worth quite a bit, growing quite a bit. So this time is very valuable. So thank you.
Dude, absolutely stoked. And obviously it's that awkward moment of having anybody say anything nice. So hopefully that gets it out of the way and we can get all to business because scale is where it's at, right?
Yes, that's where it's at. So look, no fluff, no BS. That's how we like it. So the first thing I really want to ask you, right? Well, I want to hear about your leadership and how you got into this, but it interests me that when you go to your page, you proudly proclaim you're a hacker. Right? People are like, oh, hacker's like a bad thing. So you live on that badge.
Yeah. So for me, hacker is not just like, yes, I'm deeply technical. My whole skills were built from early military days as a, Air Force veteran. I did 16 total years in that. All about 13 of those years was national security at NSA. But to me, hacking is more of a mindset. It's really about, look, the status quo says you can only do this. Hold my beer while I show you. You might be able to push that limit. And so for me, that's a big style of just kind of like how I like to live life. So pushing boundaries or maybe disrupting perceptions.
So take me back now. Give us maybe like 30 seconds where you grew up, how'd you grow up, so people get to know you. And then Air Force, you kind of explained a little bit, but how did Huntress come about? So where'd you come from? And then how do we have this great product that you created?
All right, you're getting into the deep stuff. So I'll save the sob story, but pretty broke single mom life. So when you're that way, you learn to hustle. You learn to get scrappy. I've always been into entrepreneuring, whether it was mowing. I think at one time, talking about pushing boundaries, I was like buying candy from Costco and upselling it at school. So just about anything when you're scrappy, right? But the real aha moment for me was I was probably 12, 13. I was teaching myself how to code on kind of the early days of the internet, a lot of AOL, a lot of Prodigy Net. And at this time I realized, whoa, you could do a lot of stuff because people were, really failing to understand you can't always trust anything on the internet. And that beginning of hacking actually guaranteed me my job in comms in the Air Force. So I joined at 17, straight out of like high school. And then 3 years into my kind of base communications job, I got the chance to get kind of drafted into more of the intelligence style work. So that was a whole lot of fun. And it turns out when you're doing intel, you see a lot of shady things. Like my job was stealing intelligence. And when you're on some of those computers, you're like, hey, I see other people hackers that aren't as good. And that made me realize like, whoa, maybe my calling isn't just protecting national security. Maybe I can do that for representing those that aren't just the Fortune 500 companies, the 99% of the companies that are like the global backbone. And that was the inspiration really for Huntress.
That is awesome. Now, for everyone watching, how long has Huntress been around now?
Gosh, we hit 10 years in a couple days. It's nuts.
And I think we were with you guys even before the integrations with ConnectWise and all that. And that was your team actually within a month built that integration so we could start working together. So that's how long we've been with you guys.
You guys are like super early adopters. There's a lot of folks that didn't understand, right? Security first mindset is a very different kind of mindset, especially, back in the day, it was, oh, of course, the big companies need to protect themselves, but everybody was sleeping on the idea that cybercrime was going to come down to the average company, the every company. And that for me was probably the best part of our partnership is you guys kind of beat the hell out of me to figure out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, all the automation stuff helps. So 10 years, right? 10 years you're doing this. Obviously, it's a lot of stress building a business, right? You're doing this. What was that aha moment or like, wow, like I am going to make it here. Like this is something we're getting a critical mass. Because look, at the beginning, it's tiring sometimes.
I mean, anybody who's been an entrepreneur knows like just about the time you think you know something is about the time you prove to yourself you don't know anything. And I would say if you were to call it that, this magical moment or oh crap moment, right? It would be when I just understood that part of staying ahead is understanding when you're actually on your way to becoming behind. And that sounds so like it just means being predictive, but making an actual tangible like focus. And this moment, I mean, even though there were some big moments like the first, we're a $2 billion plus company these days, but it was never anything to do with revenue. When I started having people come back and were like, you literally allow me to sleep easy at night. Or if I'm filing taxes on April 15th and extensions on April 16th, you allow me to do my business stuff is, even if I don't have to learn that geek stuff. And that to me, like that's when you actually have real fit. So it's been cool. Now it's how do we maintain that? Not just this year, but I'm looking at the next, 10 years and going, all right, we can't lose what we got.
No, you're keeping it moving. I love the fact that you guys have so many great add-on products. And again, our customers, we fully support everything that you guys are selling. So now you talked about security first. Give me that mindset. And maybe even before that, something just kind of popped in my head. Do you keep that hacker mindset as a CEO? Like, you're a hacker, right? So you have all this. Are you hacking your balance sheets? You're hacking your P&L, looking at different ways to say, hey, how can I make this better? What tweak?
So I definitely, right. I can never get into the shady, unethical side of the house, but a good example of like gross margin. Companies like mine tend to get to a certain level that if they don't really like, even though I'm a geek, I've had to spend 10 years learning financial excellence. So EBITDA, margin, making sure efficacy, right, is in place, but efficiency more importantly. So to be very frank, even sometimes it's like when I'm talking about bringing hacking skills, it's making sure like, hey, how do I do things on the front end that take care of my partners, that make sure they can, stay successful businesses while also making sure I recognize revenue appropriately. And that sounds like a weird thing to hack, but like if you really want to be an iconic company of consequence, like you can't just have the product. You got to have every part, process, people, obviously culture, and you got to have the finances. So it's a weird kind of mentality, but I'll tell you, like there's 600 of us now at the company and just about everybody is asking, could this be done differently without breaking the rules, but maybe just bending them just a little bit.
The gray is always okay. It's so funny to hear 600 people. When I first met some of your team, you guys were probably 100, 150. So, and then the second time you guys were our size. I'm like, man, these guys just like 6 months later. And yeah, you're about 2.5 of us now. So that's pretty cool. So going back to what I mentioned earlier. So security first, right? First off, you're in a crowded space, right? So are we, obviously, right? 168,000 MSPs in the US. But it's crazy. But you're in this crowded space. You always somehow find a way to stand out. What I could tell you is you were going against some of the big boys that were more established when you started. And, some of our tech guys were a little leery. And now they say that they think Huntress offers more features, better product than the top priced, let's call them big dogs, but you're big dog. So how do you use that security first to sell to yourself, to sell to MSPs, and just really give us that growth strategy?
Right. If I was to read like a boring book, they would tell you, well, you need to understand, time, money, resources. And it sounds boring, but to be very frank, we like leaned in 100%. And I realized like, what if we could take and build enterprise level tech, the stuff that, the biggest banks in the world would use, but how do we actually take the 20% of that tech and deliver no less than 80% of that value, stack a couple of those layers, because you can't deliver an 80% security product. That's just not going to work against real like cyber criminals. And the biggest part of it was understanding that if you build this right, while the Fortune 100 banks, maybe they want and can spend unlimited money on like a Formula One car. What if I could build the fastest, highest end Lamborghini? And for the same price as just the driver of that Formula One car, I can give you that Lamborghini that can outpace hackers. It's still fast enough to catch, just about anybody that you need to be able to wreck and kind of run over in this process, but also the driver and the pit crew at the lowest total cost of ownership. And what's nice is that gives you the right level product for the right level of risk. And then you can take that budget and complement anywhere else, right? It could be more security. It could be, nowadays it should be investments in AI. People are doing that. And it turns out it's like, how do you build the right problem, right? And that understanding the problem and then building the right product to solve that right problem. Like you got to know both of them. And for me, like, as long as you do that, focus on delivering value that helps address time, money, resources, you really can make a difference. And then people aren't saying, oh, this is a product. They're saying, this is a partner. I've got a partner. And from like, obviously our relationship is deep. that's kind of what attracted me here. Like, let's be real. I could have been on just about any podcast, but like I made time for this one. It's because you guys actually get it. You understand that same exact, how do you partner, not just be, a paid resource. And I don't know, to me, it seems like that's the right business answer.
Yeah, and your team does that from the top down. So, likewise, that's why we're here. And for folks that haven't used the product or don't know it, that analogy you made with the race cars is perfect because you really do offer the same enterprise skill set for small business. That product it's phenomenal. So, how about this now? Any security myths out there, right? So you have your hands in security. I would say it's in your DNA at this point. It's your life, your livelihood. What's a myth of security? Any common security myths that you're like, you look at it when someone says and you're like, that's just not real.
So back in even early 2020s, people started understanding for the first time, and I don't mean people as in the geeks. I'm talking about the business owner. Almost all business owners now understand that it's not if, it's when. And so I would say that's yesterday's advice. Today's advice really boils down to a lot of technical folks, even today, will say, well, offense, right? The hackers coming at me trying to wreck my business only have to be right once.
Right.
However, defense has to be right always. And there's some truth to that. But what we've learned firsthand is if we actually take our offensive approach, make sure that when we find an incident on any one company, right? We got 180-some-thousand businesses using our software. And if we can find one mess up by one threat actor anywhere, how do we give that herd immunity to quite literally everybody? And what's nice is we are quite literally using their own strategy against them. If they mess up one time, let's make them pay for it. And so if you can't tell, my modern fallacy is most people don't realize if you have the right team between tech, AI, prodigy, strategy, and then again, this deep security expertise, you can actually commoditize, even though some of these, incidents are wrecking the biggest businesses in the world. If you play this right, one of their mess ups is actually enough to make them pay across everybody else. So I think that's what it looks like in 2025.
Well, funny you say that. Our guys, I forget what day it was, but I guess a hacker got your software. It was all online and they installed it and they were trying to reverse engineer it. And your team caught them and started playing around with the hacker and ended up getting his browser data for trying to mess with your system.
Is this public yet? How did you know about this?
I think it went public. Yeah, I think it was.
Oh, I didn't know that we
before.
shared that. My face is a little blushy right now because you're right. I don't know.
I wasn't planning on bringing that up till you said that, and I was like, you probably, it went public. It was.
Our
team thought it was hysterical.
Find out. I don't know why they decided to try our trial, but we're pretty good ethical hackers ourselves. And if you try to mess around, you're going to get burnt. So you're right. They messed around one time, installed the trial software on their actual hacking systems. And we not only wrecked them, we were able to actually bail out a whole bunch of other companies that had been hacked by them that aren't even Huntress customers. So, dude, again, caught me off guard that you knew that, but I guess we've gone public.
Yeah, we got to do our research here too. So we'll bring you back. Let's do. I always love these. Let's do a couple rapid fire questions, right? So one, best piece of business advice you've received in your life.
When I was a tiny company, we're talking 50 or 60 of us, CEO of about a $2 billion tech company told me, hey, look, Kyle, I want to tell you this straight out. If you're going to scale this thing, you need to understand you got to take care of yourself. And even though therapy sounds like a crazy thing, therapy is actually life coaching. You should lean into it if you actually want to make the difference. I had no clue that was going to be the single biggest piece of advice that would change me. But I've burnt out once or twice in 10 years. My balance with kids, I've got 3 of them, have been awful. And therapy, again, some people, I don't mean to get touchy feely, but that has been the single biggest advice for me to actually make a difference is make sure I'm taken care of first.
No, that's smart. That's awesome. Second one. So we kind of know your first job. So how about your first real job? We'll say selling candy at school didn't count. So what was your first job maybe as a teenager?
First one that I was actually getting a W-2. I was a dishwasher in an Italian restaurant. And I'll tell you, I don't have some great analogy that pulls it all together, but I really think at the end of the day, if you can't get in and actually understand what it looks like from the bottom up, if you can't again, I shouldn't be practicing in the weeds these days. That doesn't work at 600, but knowing what it's like to be in that trenches, to be able to have that empathy, to be able to truly understand what the problem is, I think it just gives you such an incredible advantage. I don't know, obviously your audience is probably going to be all different flavors, but I'd be super curious to hear from the audience of did this relate to them or did it not? Because to me, that very first job, starting out at dishwashing, now to again, managing and running a multi-billion-dollar company, I still look back and there's a lot of stuff I learned from that day that I would never have traded that like hard kind of knocks, because I wouldn't have got to where I am today if I didn't like experience it for myself.
That's funny. I didn't know that about you. My dad and my grandparents, they owned an Italian restaurant over at 62nd and Grays in Philly for over 50 years. So we got some of that experience together.
Hey, you know, you need a dishwasher, man. I still am not too proud.
So how about your team? You have a lot of people. Obviously, you can't know all 600 of them, but for the team members that know you well, that've been working with you a while, what's one word, only one word, that they would use to describe you?
Can we be honest?
Sure.
It would probably these days, like I have to, it's actually way less important about what I do. And it's more important like what I defer and delegate and delete. And as a result of me like leaning into that deferring, I think my team might probably call me a seagull. And the reason I'm going to say that is oftentimes they just invite me to swoop in, kind of shit on everything, and then actually figure out like, okay, what do we need to be able to do to adjust this quickly, and then get out of their hair to allow them to own it. So sadly, I wish I didn't have to describe myself, but my team would probably say, hey, I need that seagull to swoop in and, you know, help me figure things out and get out.
I love it. I love it. I'd expect seagull.
That is not the word I would either, but that's the first one that came to mind.
And look, hopefully someone listening steals that too, because that's a great answer. Last one for rapid fire. What is one book that you think every entrepreneur should read?
Oh, this one's easy for me. It's not a popular one either, but I think it's probably the first 5 chapters of Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. The book has 20 some chapters, but if you read quite literally the first 5, you'll learn most of the time that the thing you're calling strategy is actually only a plan. And strategy is about taking, you know, what series of things that you can do where it's your strengths matched against somebody else's weaknesses plus market opportunities. And when you do it, how does it not just deliver one success, but cascading and compounding successes over and over? That single book, the first 5 chapters, it was a big part of me up leveling from junior enlisted military member into like being able to think truly big, like enterprise scale big. Again, it's not sexy. It's not Art of the Start or some of these that have crazy followings, but it is the single 5 most important, you know, chapters of any book I've ever read.
I'm gonna add that to my list. I like that. I always say my Bible is Think and Grow Rich from the early 1900s. It's good mindset. You know, it's not all about money, but you know, if you have the right mindset, good things come.
I'm a huge believer in like it's not just manifesting; it's the the mindset that helps you manifest.
No, exactly. Now let's talk about the future. So you're looking ahead right now. You got a crystal ball. You talked maybe 10 years, 5 years from now. What excites you the most about Huntress, the industry, what you're doing? Like let's get those juices going.
So even though I think there's a lot of AI hype out there, I'll be first to say there is some real reality about like better automation, better workflows. And then if you have something that can do a little bit of like automated reasoning on your behalf, like that's a good recipe for anything you're doing, whether it's cooking, whether it's delivering, you know, for instance, logistics to a company, like that's a good recipe. What I like right now is people have come to the kind of realization that like, whoa, maybe I should embrace a little bit more of what can be automated and accept a little bit more failure when it breaks, because like AI isn't perfect. Just if you've ever driven a self-driving car, you know, about once a day, it's going to try to kill you. So
yeah, I got a Tesla.
There you go. Same here. And I know, no joke, like for years, I tried to push more of this autonomous operations. It is a true force multiplier, not in the sense that you're going to get magic out of AI, but it's freeing up your best talent to focus on the stuff only humans can do, while more of this automation, AI, and kind of agentic behaviors can do kind of the mundane, monotonous. And even when they fall down, have a human augment them. And so I'm excited because I'm seeing a shift in just about all businesses. Even though people might be small, that doesn't mean their mindset is small. And I'm seeing really operationally mature businesses lean in. Likewise, I'm seeing mid-market and small enterprise companies actually deploying this to be able to not reduce headcount, but to be able to say next year, if I'm going to grow 30% year over year, how do I do that with 10% the headcount instead of another 30%? So I'm loving this adoption of kind of more autonomous, and whether you want to call it fancy AI or call it automation or workflows, I'm all for it.
You know what? That's so funny. We share the same mindset because we're utilizing AI in here not to get rid of anyone, but maybe slow down the needs to bringing on new people because we're getting more efficient. And in 2026, we're making a pivot now. My software development company is actually becoming an AI company because you know what? Either either you stay on the road or get run over. So we're going to keep moving forward there.
I'm quite sure people are not getting replaced by AI yet, but I am absolutely, especially in software development, seeing software developers using AI replacing software developers that don't. I'm
Exactly.
100% seeing it.
So last question, then we'll close out. We'll let you roll. But if you had 30 seconds, right, with a founder, 10 person, 20 person that really they want to be you, right? They want to come up, they want to grow this business. What would you tell them? What advice, or even to yourself, right? What advice would you give to yourself now? Any of those buckets you could choose from?
Gosh, it would probably be you're taking too long to iterate and test. I mean, I really have learned, and don't get me wrong, you can't do it with everybody, but like Anthony, a great partner with you, I can bring something out and say, hey, I don't think I've completely got this right, but what I am doing, it's minimal, it's repeatable, it's consistent. And I think this is the kernel of something that might be something bigger. And to be honest, if you're not slightly embarrassed what you're shipping initially, you are waiting way too long. And then you can go and iterate. And when you have each kind of W, right, each win that you're bringing, it just builds like something that has real momentum behind it. So if I'm meeting any founder, I don't care if it is a 50, employee company or a 50-year-old company that's been here forever, I am seeing most folks, they're losing their own kind of urgency. They're losing what I would call it is the send it mentality. Don't chase perfect. Don't let it be the enemy of good, and just send it. And then it has to be followed with elevating it. So that'd be my 30 seconds. I would beg them to step back, reassess. They don't have to do it perfect, but what small things can they start adapting, sending, maybe improving in their business? And then just iterate on it. You've got years to get it right. Don't just have a 2-year reveal program and find out you got it all wrong. And I mean this, I think this is what it takes to stay ahead in the age of AI. And more importantly, in my business, this is what it takes to stay ahead of cyber criminals who are doing this, who are using AI, who are using process. And those are the real multi-billion-dollar businesses we have to worry about.
That for everyone listening, if you replay that last 30 seconds, because that is the best advice. I've seen so many smart people never get it off the ground because they're waiting for the perfect time. And it's like when you're sitting there waiting, someone else is doing it. So that's phenomenal. So listen, you were so generous with your time today. I thank you for doing the podcast. Myself, and I hope all of our audience also thanks you for your service. It's a big commitment you made for all those years. So we appreciate that. And I'm just looking forward to continue the partnership for many years, getting together as we talked about in a few different things. And you were fantastic. So truly appreciate you.
Dude, thanks for keeping it real, bringing the fire. I've done way too many of these that questions are corny. Those were good. So keep them up. I'll be listening to future podcasts, and I would love to keep seeing questions that get right to the heart of things, not just fluff.
Now, great. So thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, brother. Have a good one.